So that was this. Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, I looked at the results of the test for the first half, the chapter 19, which is the kinetics. And the majority of the questions that those attempted y'all got them right. There were 11 questions, and like average 15 people got 1 through 7 correct. 9 got 8 correct. The table one was the one most missed, which I was going to do. Only 8 people got that correct. And then there was another one that was missed that I was going to go over. Y'all have any comments about it?
I honestly found it more difficult than your test just because of the way it was worded and the way it was kind of taught on Chem 101 was kind of different from how you taught it. So I didn't really like the wording of it.
Okay. The beginning part of the test, it dealt with orders, right? Like it would give a rate law expression and say something like, what would the overall order be? Or it would say something like, if reactant C was tripled, what would happen to the rate? Y'all, you know what I'm talking about when I say stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
There was one that I think 5 of you missed, and this is what it looked like. And it gave the rate law expression. Hold on. All it did, do y'all see it? It had A plus 2B plus C yield products, and then it gave the rate law expression with second order in A and first order in B. But the question asks, if C is tripled, what happens to the rate? Well, C's not even in the rate law expression, so that's 0 order, so that's a 1, so it would not affect the rate. And there were 4 or 5 of you that missed that.
I don't think I have that question.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, did you have one similar to it?
I have one that's similar, but it asks what the rate would have been if A was tripled instead.
Right. It varied.
All right.
I had it where it randomized it. Then there was one with the data table. I thought I wrote it larger. Let's see. Well, okay. I know I wrote it larger somewhere, but anyway, I'll just write it on the board. I'm going to go ahead and do what the table looked like. All I'm going to do is write some of the concentrations. Let's see, was it? Oh, it's 1.25. This one, a lot of you missed it. Now, granted, you may have had different numbers, but the format, the questions were the same, or the level of difficulty, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And it's like I did in lecture before break, where one of them didn't stay the same. Do y'all remember what I'm talking about there? Let me write. I'm almost done with this. Is it? Okay. It wants you to figure out the rate law expression. So if I hold A fixed, experiment 1 and 2, then B does what? It tripled, didn't it? Well, if B tripled, what happened to the rate? The rate tripled. Do y'all see that? So that means the order for B must be a 1. Now, the problem is we've already done experiments 1 and 2. So now you have to, compare either 1 and 3 or 2 and 3. And what happens to figure out A? What happens is B doesn't stay fixed, but it doesn't matter because you already know the result. You know the order that it's going to do. So all you'd have to do, say I'm comparing, well, I'll just do it down below. Whoops. I'm just setting it up and then y'all see what I'm talking about. Okay. If you, let's see, do y'all see that? I put 3.75 over 1.25, and I don't know its effect on rate. That's the box. But I took 0.2 over 0.1, and I do know that's raised to the 1 because I already figured that out. And then I took 5.10 over 0.850. What I'm getting is 3 raised to what times 2 equals 6. So if I don't take that 6 and divide by 2, I get a 3. 3 raised to what gives me 3? Well, it's first order. So they were both first order. Do y'all remember that table question? Some of you, well, only, let's see, where's my, on that one, only 8 of you got it correct. So that means the majority, half of you missed it. Okay, anyway, what I plan to do is you're going to have, let me let this person in. You're going to have your second half of test 4 starting today. I think it starts at around 11. And you're going to get a 24-hour period. It's over nuclear chemistry stuff. The majority of it is nuclear reaction balancing, or asks you about particles, like which of the following is correct notation for an alpha particle, something like that. So the majority of it's pretty short. There's one, or at most, I think I just put one half-life problem on there, just one. And then there is one, it's like a disintegration series. It's starting you with something, and it tells you what you end with, and then you have multiple choice. Well, what could the possible decays have been? So you're just looking at the math of the top numbers. It goes down by X number. Say it went down, goes down by 12. And then say it goes down in the Z number by 6. Then it could be 3 alphas. Do you understand what I'm doing? You're just trying to figure out what the decays were, or the possible decays are. So I don't recall how much time I allowed. That's the question I need to ask. The time I allowed for this test, the chapter 19 part, was that enough time?
I thought it was a pretty good amount of time.
Okay, let me ask this. I want to make sure that it's not just specific to the type test that I'm doing on this Chem 101. If say you're taking a test and the first question is a table, say a kinetics, and it's a data table, and you want to do the easier ones first. You want to come back to it. Are you allowed to do that on Chem 101?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I was just making sure that you didn't have to do one before you continued. Okay. So do y'all have any questions? This was just to answer questions on nuclear chemistry stuff or whatever.
I've got one.
Okay.
So in our there was this one quiz you sent us that had 17 problems.
Uh-huh.
And then one of the questions were like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to find it.
It's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was the second quiz with 12 questions.
Okay.
It says heavy nuclides with too few neutrons to be in the band of stability are most likely to decay by what mode?
Okay, that's below the band.
Yeah.
If it's too few neutrons, it's below the band. So it can either decay by positron, emit a positron, or it can capture an electron.
Okay. It says here that it's an alpha particle production, and I wasn't so sure how that would have been the
Read
right
the
answer.
beginning part of the problem. It said too few neutrons, right?
Yeah.
That's all it said?
It said heavy nuclides with too few neutrons.
Okay, heavy nuclides. That's the beyond lead.
Okay.
That's what that meant. If it said heavy, it's anything like the transuranium, it's beyond lead. So then that would be alpha. That's the main.
Alright.
For it to be a positron, it would say the too low a neutron to proton ratio. Okay,
Yeah.
that's that belt or band of stability.
Okay.
Okay, another question. I'm just making sure I've got all these names. It's saying that I have 15 people, but I don't have 15 checks. Here's one.
Could I ask a question about the quiz we just did?
Sure.
So it was question 12.
Uh-huh.
And it's asking about a bimolecular reaction.
Bimolecular, yeah. Okay, let me write two rate law expressions and show you, but both of these would be considered bimolecular. And then I'll explain why. Can you see the paper?
Mm-hmm.
They see how the overall order in both of those is 2?
Yep.
That's bimolecular.
Okay.
If it was unimolecular, it would just have all the radionuclide decays are unimolecular. They're all first order. And then if it was termolecular, you would have to add to 3. Did that answer your question?
Is the order of a term, is that 3?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yep, that answers the question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Actually, so like with that, I think the one that had the answer saying that it had an order of 2, but it also had something. It wasn't just that; it was also saying that the two molecules collide at the same time. And that was something I didn't remember going over in class. So I guess I'm slightly confused about that.
Okay, I could barely hear what you asked. Say it again. I'm sorry.
What's the same question of it being like bilocular? It wasn't, the answer wasn't just that the overall order is 2. It was also saying that they collide at the same time.
Well, the whole point, okay, that goes back to the collision theory. There are 2 conditions for products to form. You have to have proper alignment before they collide. They have to collide to form the product. So you have to have proper orientation or alignment, and then they have to have sufficient energy to break existing bonds and then form new bonds. So that collisions of molecules is part of that collision theory.
Okay.
Anybody else have a question? I didn't do like an average on this first half, but because I'm offering to prorate or count the second one for at least one student, if your score is so much better on the chapter 20 part, then what I'll do is what I can do is either the the chapter 19 part or the chapter 20 part. They're both out of, say, how many points was it? Was it out of 30 or 45? Wasn't it like 45? Okay.
I was 45.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the percent. Say a student made an 80% on chapter 19, but then they make a 95% on the chapter 20. I'm going to let you guys decide, do you want do you want to just keep the 95, or do you want me to average both? Or of course, you're not going to want the lower one. So it's my offer is, if you did poorly on this first half, if you do really well on the chapter 20 part, I'll just use that percent as your test score grade. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
So would it be like if somebody scored lower on chapter 20, would we be able to do that on chapter 19 as well?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm go both direction, either direction. Now somebody just came in and I saw that I let them in. And, oh, there it is. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? I just was mainly meeting today because I'm not going to see y'all Friday. And I just wanted to make sure you didn't have any other questions. I did find out, well, I didn't find this out. I can start creating my own questions on Chem 101, where I can do like just simply a fill in the blank, where you just write the answer, or multiple choice. I can actually, if I wanted to put a table problem, I could upload, browse and upload a table and then ask a question based on that. I could ask several questions based on a picture. So I'm going to play with that with one of my 1110 classes. By play, I mean create something on Chem 101 and see how it goes. And then I might start doing that on Chem 101. I'm also going to look at D2L. The problem with, well, there's a test bank that we have for our textbook, and all the answers are already out for those. So we're having to create our own questions. So we're working on that. Anybody have a question or a concept or something you would like me to go over? Disintegration series or shorthand notation. There really is not a shorthand notation on Chem 101, but there is where they'll say if you have this reactant nuclide and you bombard it with a neutron and then you get an alpha particle, what is the product? Nuclide A, B, C, D. So it's similar. I mean, you have to do the balancing to figure that out. So I think this chapter 20 part's going to be easier. You are allowed the half-life formula, or to do your half-life problem. You are allowed to use that. Of course, you need a periodic chart by you, to do that. I don't think that you need really anything else. So, anybody have another question?
For the decay, like where you select if it's alphas and whatever, is there always just going to be one answer?
There will be, no, it could have more than one answer. I mean, it could say both A and B, or is that what you're asking?
Well,
Like-
then it's just one of the, like you should, it'll have both A and B if that's an option.
Yeah, it could. If I do, let me just write this up. Oh, I can ask something. Oh yeah, there's a fission and fusion question on there. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I could do this. Let's say I don't give you are produced. This is the mother nuclide, and it's going to give me two daughters here. It could say, which of the following A, B, C, D could possibly be those daughters? Well, you're going to have to pick the one where they add to the right math. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that what you meant, Isaac?
No, I was more like where you had the decay series. I mean, theoretically, it could have been like it gives off a neutron and then takes a proton, or like that kind of thing.
Right. It could be. Okay. Let me do one, because there is one like this on it. Hold on. Okay.
I guess follow up to that. At any stage where it's above the stability band, does
Uh-huh.
it like say it's at one weight and one nuclide state or whatever, does it only have one option on what it can do at each point?
No, no. It can have more, but you have to make sure that the math adds up. So let me, okay, I hope I did this right. If I start with uranium and I'm going to end with radon, what possibly was emitted? So this is sort of a disintegration series, but I didn't give you the individual decay modes. How would you figure, okay, I'm glad I'm doing this, because this is two possibilities can happen if I did my math right. Y'all tell me what would be that question mark. So I'm starting with uranium-238, and I'm going to end with radon, what is that, 226? Yeah.
Is it just 3 alphas?
If I did my math right, is 238 minus 226 is 12, right? Yeah. 12. It would be 3 alphas, but guess what else it could be? Guess what else it could be? It could be a carbon 12.
Could it also be 12 neutrons and 12 electrons?
Well, let's see. If it's 12 neutrons, that's 12 for the top.
Not 12 and 12, but whatever adds up to the.
Yeah, I see what you're trying to do. You have to add it to get that answer. So my point the reason why I did this, if they gave you something like this, and it says A, B, C, D, and A says 3 alphas, and B says a carbon 12, and letter D says both A and B. Does that make sense? So you might have to choose more than one choice.
What other actual like carbon 12 should we be looking for? Can like anything come out of it?
Carbon 12 is stable, so it is not going to break apart anymore.
But like it could like spit out an oxygen or whatever else.
Oh
also.
yeah. But, okay, I'm glad I'm thinking of, say, same question, but it says, has more than one decay mode. Then you know the answer is just the 3 alphas. You can't put the carbon 12 because that's one decay mode. Does that make sense? So you have to read what they're asking. But there is one like this on your quiz or on 101 today. Okay, another question?
So you mentioned that there was a fusion and fission problem.
Question. Mhm.
Yeah, what does that look like?
Okay, this one that I just held up,
Yeah.
here, let me go ahead and finish it. Let's see. Okay, this one is considered to be a fission problem because it's splitting this heavy nuclide into more than one nuclides. Okay, fusion is combining. So if I have normal hydrogen and maybe I'm going to combine it with tritium, I'm going to get a helium. Both fission and fusion are exothermic reactions. They both produce a lot of energy. So this would be an example. I'm taking 2 very light nuclides, combining them to form just one thing. That's fusion. Okay, did
Okay.
that answer your question, Felicia?
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
Anybody else have another question?
I have a question. Will you start to send out materials for the next chapter this week, or let it start next week?
See, next week is going to be balancing redox. So yes, I will try to send out something maybe Sunday.
Okay.
My goal this 3-day weekend is to try to get those activities. Every class had possible 2 activities, activity 5, activity 6, and I've got 5 classes. So I'm going to try to grade those. But yes, I'm aware that I haven't sent out anything redox wise in terms of notes. I will say, and if I have my lab manual, I don't. Oh yeah, I do. Let me get my lab manual real quick. Okay, in your lab manual, about page 77, these are going to be, there are 2 pages of notes. One's called, they're both called balancing redox equations rules. One's called the change in oxidation number method, and then one's called the half reaction method. I think on Monday, I'm only going to do the change method over and over and over again, so you can see the pattern. And I may send a few equations, they're blank, and we're going to work them together so you see the pattern. That'll save you time from writing it out, because I'll already have it written, or I'm sending it by email, so you'll have it in front of you. And so Monday will be balancing using change in oxidation state rules, and then Wednesday I'll answer questions. I'll probably give you a practice, and then Wednesday I'll start the half reaction method. All redox reactions can be balanced by the change method. Not all reactions can be balanced by the half reaction method. The advantage of doing the half reaction method is that the student does not need to know the oxidation number. And so students tend to like that method better because they're weak in figuring out that oxidation state. But that's going to be the beginning. I mean, Dylan, I think you're the one that asked about, would I send out more, what we're going to do next week. If you have your lab manual by you on Monday, that's going to help, because I'm going to be going over those rules. Again, it starts at about page 77. I still will send out something, though, maybe Sunday. Any other questions?
Have you had any update about what we might do for the final for this course?
The final will be, it will be a multiple choice test on D2L, and it will be proctored. And it will be, I'm pretty sure they're going to try to do it close to your exam schedule. Like if y'all are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so you would probably be taking it on that Wednesday from 10 until noon about. So that information about that you'll get from probably Dr. Burns a little bit later. So for our class, we're finishing up this week, will be considered test 4. And then that's going to leave one more test, which is going to be electrochemistry. Half of it's going to be balancing and half of it will be, well, half of it will be balancing. A fourth of it will be Faraday's law. A fourth of it will be Nernst equation. We haven't, that's going to be chapter 18. I haven't gotten there yet. So, and then I'm going to try, I've given 6 activities. I'm going to try to give 2 more activities, and then I'm taking the best 5. Your lab grade now, I don't know if Dr. Burns, it's still out of, is it out of 250 still, or is it 225? Because you don't have your lab final. I'm not sure how he did the points for lab. So y'all had, no, you didn't have, is your kinetics lab, was your kinetics lab this week?
It was. Oh wait, the rate log lab.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it was.
Okay. Any other questions or things you want me to review?
Just for confirmation, I see on the answers that this is what it is, but is the keyword for when you can use the coefficients in like the rate module is when it's rate of disappearance or appearance and not like rate law?
Right. That's just comparing the rate to each of your, say, 2 reactants in your 2 products. You're just dividing each one by their coefficient. So then you're multiplying the rate by that number if you want to see the disappearance of, say, A and B, or the appearance of, say, C and D.
Yeah. Okay.
That's when you would use, yes, the coefficients. Okay, I'm gonna, if I call your name, it's because I'm not seeing you as here, or I'm missing it. And it might be that I can just scroll down and see more. So just real quick, Raven, Garrett, Cassie, Miriam, Jake, Michaela. Okay. Any other questions?
Will there be any other bonus point opportunities?
I'm sure there will.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
If I had thought about it for the test that you just took and then the one you're getting ready to take, I would have created at the very end a problem on, say instead of, y'all had 11 questions, right? Maybe question 12 would have been something that I would have created where you just work it and then you're typing in just the answer. But I didn't think about it. So for the next test, or maybe a quiz like that, I might add as bonus to test 4. Right now, I probably won't, because that's going to take away from, time for me to use to grade. Since I'm allowing y'all, you took test 4 part 1, say chapter 19 part. Now you're getting ready to take test 4 chapter 20 part. I'm allowing the better of those 2 to be your test 4 grade. Just in terms of percent. So I'm not going to do a bonus to that. I'll probably do something though to the test 5. Any other questions?
Are we still gonna are you still gonna drop one of the 5 tests?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But that final's 200 points. I will send out, well, y'all can go to the ACS website and take as many of those as practices as you want. If we were in class, I would have given you hard copies of something that Dr. Burns had set up. It was let's see how many, 40 questions, I think. And he said, time yourself 1 hour. And if your score on that would be a good predictor on your score on the ACS exam. I don't have access to that. I could email him and see if he has
I
the
might
word.
some.
You do?
Yeah, they might be written on. I'll see what I can do about I'll see if I written on in pen, but
Okay.
I think I have.
Well, yeah, just maybe if they had, as we get closer, maybe a couple of them.
Okay, yeah. I think I have them.
Okay. I still might ask or email Dr. Burns if he has that 40 question one.
Not the A and B forms.
Yeah, that's the good, that I think was good because it allows the student, if they time themselves an hour, it's a time test. So it gets them used to, well, how fast they need to read these questions and solve them. Anybody else have a question or topic or something you want me to go over for this test that's going to be released? It's on Chem 101. I don't remember how many questions, but I think it's only got 1 math. Well, if you count the disintegration series one where you have to add to get the numbers, 2 math problems. It might have, given the half-life, what's the rate constant? So that would be considered a math one too, but that's just that formula, which I'm not sure if they give it to you, but you get to use your, formulas anyway. It's this one. So if they give you the half-life, you can just take this number, which is natural log 2, divide by the half-life, and you've got your rate constant.
And
I
the
think
other
y'all-
the other one's ln of final over initial or initial over final?
It's initial over final.
Okay.
And that is definitely one of the problems on there. So it's, get a piece of paper. And I'm going to write it a little bit different way, and then I'll say why. It's the natural log. See, I've taken the negative off of initial starting amount, or this could be the starting disintegrations per minute, and then this could be the final disintegrations per minute. So it's always initial, final. Take the natural log of that is the rate constant times. This is now time elapsed. So you could figure out how old an object is, or if we give you how long it goes, and we start you with 100 here, you could solve, if you had already solved for the rate constant, you could solve for how much remains. So this formula, and then that 0.69, oh, well, here, I'll do this. There we go. If I now change it to half-life, it's the time it takes for half the sample to decay. So that's always going to be the natural log of 2, which is that 0.693. So these are the 2 main formulas, or the only formulas really, for half-life.
Yep.
What did you mean about when you said like initial rate over final rate? Does the rate change?
Well, sometimes the rates are like, for nuclear chemistry, it's called disintegrations per minute. And y'all, I don't know if, I guess you're going to have that lab. It's the second to the last lab of the semester. You'll see what I'm talking about more with that lab. I don't think I put a question like that on your test, but you'll see if you go, just for fun, if you go to your lab manual and look up the radiochem lab, it's at the end of the manual. It has in the discussion what I'm talking about. Had we been in the lab, y'all would have used a detector and you would have figured out, you would have back calculated, knowing the rate constant for potassium, you would have back calculated an amount. So if you look at, just glance at the report sheet and then you'll see what I'm talking about. Another question? Okay, the test for chapter 20 part is going to start soon. It's on Chem 101. And you get, I think I've given y'all a 24-hour period to take it. So go ahead and get that done. And then I'll look at the scores. I think what I'll do is I'll just, the better score I'll take and make that your, that percent out of 100, your test 4 grade. That means, you know, if you're happy with your test 4 chapter 19 grade, you know, then you don't really have to do this one, but this one's going to be a whole lot easier than the chapter 19 one.
So you will just take 1 grade. So if I did really, like I did really bad on the 19, like if I do the 20, can I keep that grade kind of thing? If I do better?
Yeah, that's what I went over at the beginning.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think I've got the roll and I'm going to end the meeting soon. Last chance, are there any other questions? Okay, well, y'all have a